Try these 6 effective strategies to win back your children's respect when they don't respect you. Senior. The roles that parents and children play start to change at some point in life. You raise them, mentor them, and make sacrifices for them for decades. One day, though, you notice that something has changed. Perhaps they disregard your counsel. Perhaps they don't care about your thoughts. It stings if they treat you like a burden or, worse, talk down to you. You may feel irritated or even furious if your kids have begun to treat you with less deference than you merit. Perhaps you should tell them how much you've done for them and how much time you've spent prioritizing them. The fact is, however, that anger won't make things better. Actually, it frequently makes matters worse. There is a far more efficient method to win back their respect without arguing, fighting, or harboring anger. I'm going to give you 6 strategies today for dealing with disrespectful behavior from your kids. These are modest adjustments that have the potential to drastically alter how others perceive you. You may be surprised by some of these, but if you read through to the finish, you will learn how to become a respected and appreciated person again. Let's get going now. First, quit trying to get their approval. Trying too hard to please their children is one of the worst mistakes parents make, especially as they get older. Perhaps you've observed yourself engaging in it. You make a special effort to make room for them. When you want to say no, you say yes. You prioritize their needs over your own in the hopes that they will value you more if you only do enough for them. Here's the unpleasant reality, though. They will respect you less the more you strive for their acceptance. Do you understand? Self-sacrifice does not garner respect. Self-respect is the basis for earning it. You're actually teaching kids that your feelings are secondary if you're constantly sacrificing yourself, giving in, and attempting to maintain harmony. And it's simple for them to take you for granted once they begin to think that. Margaret was a strong, self-reliant woman in her younger years who I previously knew. However, as she grew older, she began to delegate all decision-making authority to her kids. She adjusted her schedule to accommodate their demands, kept her thoughts to herself, and even disregarded their patronizing tone. She once told me, "I just want to keep the family together." However, what took place? She was no longer valued by her children. They believed that she would always adapt, always concur, and always keep quiet. She believed she was maintaining harmony. In reality, though, she was losing her voice. Demanding respect from your children is not the first step. Stop behaving as though you need it. Establish limits. When necessary, say no, even if they disagree with what you have to say. Speak your opinion, because they will begin to view you differently the instant you begin to appreciate yourself. And you will eventually regain that respect. Step 2. Set an example rather than dispute. Your immediate reaction may be to argue, remind them of everything you've done, or demand that they listen when your kids ignore your thoughts, talk over you, or behave disrespectfully. The fact that debating never succeeds, however, will save you years of frustration. Consider it. When was the last time you fought for someone's regard and succeeded? Words cannot buy you respect. You must earn it by your presence, your demeanor, and your reaction to people who try to test your tolerance. When you react angrily to disrespect, you are only reinforcing their pre-existing belief that they are in control of you. A retired teacher named Frank, whom I met, had devoted his life to confidently managing a classroom. His grown children, meanwhile, had begun to consider Dad as an afterthought at home. When he attempted to correct them, they disregarded his counsel, downplayed his worries, and occasionally even laughed. He initially retorted, attempting to demonstrate that he was still deserving of their regard. However, the more he struggled, the worse things became. One day, however, Frank changed. He began to listen, actually listen, rather than argue. He carried himself like a man who already had respect. Rather than using words to gain it, he talked wisely, gently, and without trying to win. His kids gradually began to notice. They observed a man who was merely a figure of string and wasn't in a desperate attempt to win their approval. Don't argue with your kids if they don't respect you. Treating yourself with respect will demonstrate to them what respect looks like. Don't lose your pride. Talk with assurance. Above all, you should never put yourself on their level, because when you gracefully stand your ground, they will sense it and eventually follow your example. Please let me know in the second remark below if you're still watching this video and finding these ideas helpful. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. Let's go ahead now. Step 3. Stop relying on others emotionally. The realization that you cannot rely on your children to provide you with emotional fulfillment is one of the most difficult truths to learn as you age. You may have a strong affection for them and desire their reciprocal love and respect. However, the power in the relationship changes the instant they realize you need them to feel appreciated. This is the truth, folks. Even your own kids, those who are emotionally autonomous, should be respected. They are under strain when you depend on them for approval, love, or attention, and they begin to feel burdened rather than thankful. They may retreat. They may become impatient or even irritable with you. Additionally, they give their love less freely the more you pursue it. Helen was a woman I used to know. She had given her children everything, and she was a good-hearted mother. She found herself waiting by the phone, hoping they would call. As they grew older and busier with their own life, she called them instead, far too frequently. When they didn't, she expressed her longing for additional visits from them and how much she missed them. However, it pushed them away rather than closer. Instead of looking forward to her calls, they began to view them as a duty. Then Helen took a different action one day. She gave up waiting. She was the first to cease calling. Rather, she began to put herself first, taking care of her own happiness, going out with friends, and learning new interests. And a startling thing occurred. Her kids began making more calls. Since they believed she had a complete life of her own, they began to respect her time. It's an easy lesson. Your children will begin to value your presence more the less you rely on them to make you feel wanted. They will begin to respect you when you demonstrate your independence, not out of duty but because they truly admire the life you have created for yourself. Step 4. Establish and uphold boundaries. The fact that parents allow their children to lose respect for them is one of the main causes of this. Your kids will continue to treat you disrespectfully, ignore your thoughts, or act as though your time and feelings are nothing if you let them. People, especially family, will always treat you the way you allow them to, not because they are awful people. Establishing limits does not entail isolating your kids or causing strife. It entails firmly and calmly determining what conduct you will and will not tolerate. It also entails enforcing those boundaries when they are breached. Which is more crucial? I recall a retired businessman named Robert who had dedicated his life to confidently and disciplinedly managing a corporation. He struggled, however, with his adult children. They disregarded his worries, stopped him when he was speaking, and even attacked the way he lived. He put up with it at first. The fight wasn't worth it, he assured himself. He eventually saw, however, that each time he remained silent, he was teaching them that their actions were okay. Eventually, Robert modified his strategy. He calmly answered, "I'll continue speaking when you're ready to listen." In response to his son's interruption, he only responded, "You don't have to agree with me, but I expect you to respect me." After his daughter rejected his viewpoint, he also made it plain that he wouldn't be hanging out with them if they couldn't show him even the most basic respect when they kept pushing his boundaries. Do you know what took place? They began to listen. They initially resisted. They soon discovered, however, that their father was not going to back down. They could see he was self-assured enough to demand respect. As a result, they began to give it to him. You should consider whether you are letting your children to treat you disrespectfully, because they won't create boundaries for you if you don't. Also, no one else will defend you if you don't. Please let me know in the fourth comment below if you're still viewing this video and finding these ideas helpful. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. Let's go ahead now. Step 5. Quit giving without gratitude. Giving to those who don't value it is one of the easiest ways to lose respect. And we do this more often than we think as parents. Despite being ignored, taken for granted, and treated with nothing but entitlement, we still devote our time, effort, and support. Here's the reality, though: you don't develop love when you give to someone who doesn't value it. Respect is not earned by you. You create anticipation. They begin to view your generosity as something they are entitled to rather than as something useful. And they don't feel appreciative the minute you stop. They are irritated. A parent I knew by the name of George had always been giving to his kids. When they required financial support, he abandoned everything to help them, and he even reorganized his life to meet their requirements. However, he encountered criticism rather than appreciation. They didn't express gratitude. They had higher expectations. Worst of all, they were too busy to assist him when he eventually needed it. Then George changed one day. He ceased to overdo it. Before anyone even asked for aid, he ceased offering it. Above all, he began to say no when it was necessary. His kids were initially irritated. They couldn't comprehend why he was no longer going above and above for them. However, something changed with time. They began to appreciate his time. They soon realized that his generosity was limited, and they began to appreciate his efforts. It was a present, not a promise. Take a break if you believe your kids don't appreciate your kindness, your time, or your effort. Are you contributing more than you ought to? What would happen if you stopped? If you did, people will begin to appreciate your giving with respect if you convince them that it is dependent on it. Step 6. Create a life apart from them. Demonstrating to your kids that your happiness isn't centered on them is one of the most effective strategies to win back their respect. It's normal for parents to put their kids first and make them the focus of their lives. However, that dynamic changes as we age. Additionally, they can begin to perceive you as someone who has nothing else going on if you have dedicated your entire life to them. Individuals with their own goals, passions, and sense of fulfillment are respected. Additionally, your kids may begin to feel stifled or worse if they witness your dependence on them for amusement, approval, or purpose. They may begin to perceive you as someone who lacks a personal life. Eleanor was a widow in her late 70s that I knew. She devoted herself fully to her children's lives after her husband went away, checking in with them frequently and offering them unasked for counsel in the hopes that they would fill the void left by her husband. However, it pushed them away rather than brought them closer. Eleanor felt more alone than ever as they stopped visiting and cut down on their phone conversations. She then made a decision. She became a member. She began taking trips with her pals. She worked as a volunteer at a community center in the area. Something amazing happened when she stopped making her kids the center of her universe. Her kids began interacting more. They wanted to know what she was up to. They respected her self-reliance. They held her in high regard. Consider whether your kids believe you have a fulfilling life if they don't respect you. Or do they perceive you as a person who is merely awaiting their attention? Because they will begin to view you in a very new way if you demonstrate that you are living, not just surviving. Please let me know in the 6th comment below if you're still viewing this video and finding these insights helpful. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. Last words. It is impossible to expect your children to respect you. It's something that you motivate through your personal demeanor, boundaries, and lifestyle choices. Don't waste your energy being upset if they have begun to treat you with less respect, care, or regard. Change your strategy instead. The less you need their approval, the more of it they will offer you. So stop chasing it. Your dignity speaks louder than words. Therefore, set a good example. Remove your emotional reliance since they will respect you more if you are more independent. People will only treat you the way you want them to. So set limits. Don't give without gratitude because generosity loses its worth when it is taken for granted. And above all, create a life apart from them because people like those who have their own happiness, fulfillment, and purpose. If you follow these steps, amazing things will occur. Your kids will begin to view you as someone who deserves respect just for being themselves, rather than as someone who is merely vying for their attention. And you will eventually regain that respect, not because you asked for it, but because you merited it. We appreciate you being here with us today. We would be delighted to hear from you. Tell us about one thing you learned today and how you intend to apply it in your life in the comments section below. We value your opinions, so please feel free to express them. We are greatly inspired and encouraged by reading your remarks. Please like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it entertaining and useful. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. We appreciate your time and hope to see you in the upcoming video.